All right, so are you ready to dive into some numerology?
Always ready for a good deep dive.
Today we're looking at folks born on the 4th, 13th, 22nd, or 31st.
Ah, so root number 4.
Yeah, exactly. And I gotta say, this document, we've got root number 4. It's giving some interesting vibes.
What kind of vibes are we talking?
Well, you know how root number 4 is all about like unconventional paths to success and like there's this tie-in to the planet Rahu.
Ah, Rahu, that's a fascinating one.
Yeah, it's known for kind of shaking things up a bit, causing a little cosmic chaos.
Yeah, it's not exactly known for bringing stability and order. Right.
Definitely not. So, okay, let's jump into the document itself. It describes this root number as bringing quick results, almost like a fast forward button.
Interesting. So like things just kind of happen faster for these folks.
Yeah, it seems that way, but then there's this other side too. It mentions potential pitfalls like being drawn to the wrong crowd or making some, questionable choices.
It's almost like this number's got a bit of a double personality.
Right, like a Jekyll and Hyde thing.
Right. Totally. There's definitely a duality to it.
Mhm.
You might be on that fast track to success, but the path might be a little more, how should I put it, winding.
Yeah, a little less straightforward.
Exactly. And the document even specifically mentions the need for like an experienced mentor.
Someone to help navigate those twists and turns.
Yeah, like a guide through the cosmic chaos.
Which makes a lot of sense if we consider Rahu's influence, right?
Absolutely. Rahu is all about challenging the norms, breaking free from those traditional paths.
Like it's whispering in your ear, you're not meant to follow the crowd.
You got to forge your own way.
Exactly. And that can be both exciting and kind of daunting, right?
Oh, for sure. It's like being handed the keys to a super fast sports car.
Yeah, you got the power, but you got to learn how to handle it.
Right. You need some driving lessons before you hit the gas.
Speaking of hitting the gas, let's fast forward to 2025.
Okay, let's see what the future holds.
Well, the document lays out some numerology predictions specifically for root number 4.
All right, hit me with the numbers.
It highlights a bunch of influential numbers for the year 4, 9, 1, 3, and 5.
Interesting mix.
Yeah, but here's the thing that really stood out to me. It mentions that number 1, which, is usually associated with leadership and all that.
Yeah, like a take charge kind of energy.
Exactly. But it says number 1 might actually be in opposition for root number 4 individuals in 2025.
Opposition.
Yeah.
Now that's intriguing.
Yeah, it seems a little contradictory, doesn't it? Like 4 is supposed to be favorable, but then 1 is, well, not.
Yeah, that's not how we usually think about number 1.
Right. So what's the deal with that?
Well, it doesn't necessarily mean it's like a bad thing, but it does suggest there might be some clashing energies.
Okay, so like how would that play out?
Well, imagine you're driven to like take charge, assert your independence.
Yeah, make things happen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then external forces or circumstances could create some pushback.
So it's not about avoiding leadership altogether.
No more like learning to navigate those power dynamics skillfully.
So it's less of a red light and more of a yellow light. Proceed with caution.
Exactly. You got to be prepared for some bumps in the road.
And speaking of bumps in the road, the document also warns about the potential for overzealous excitement leading to distractions in 2025.
Overzealous excitement. I can see how that could be a problem.
It's like you're so amped up about your goals that you end up chasing every shiny object.
And you lose sight of the bigger picture.
Exactly. We've all been there, right?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
It's that classic struggle between passion and focus.
Right. You need the fire, but you also got to stay on track.
Yeah, that's where things like mindfulness practices and setting clear priorities can come in handy.
And maybe leaning on that mentor we talked about earlier.
Right, having someone to help you stay grounded.
Okay, now this next point is especially relevant in our social media age.
Let's hear it.
The document stresses the importance of protecting your social image in 2025.
Interesting. So like reputation management is key.
Yeah, be mindful of what you put out there because it can have a ripple effect.
It's like you're building a brand, and every action, every statement, every post contributes to that brand.
So it's not just about being careful online. It's about the image you're projecting in all areas of your life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's about aligning your actions with your values and aspirations.
And then there's this little nugget that really piqued my curiosity.
I love those little nuggets.
It advises caution when dealing with government officials and authority figures in 2025.
Now that's intriguing. What's the vibe there?
Yeah, is it a watch your back kind of warning, or is there something deeper going on?
Well, I think it speaks to the potential for some friction between root number 4's independent spirit.
Right, that whole forging your own path thing.
Exactly. And the more rigid structures of authority.
So you might find yourself butting heads with bureaucracy.
Yeah, or challenging the status quo.
But even when you're navigating those power dynamics, respect and strategy can go a long way.
Absolutely. You got to know when to push back and when to work within the system.
It's about playing the game smartly.
Exactly.
It's interesting how this document weaves together these ancient numerological concepts with modern-day realities.
Right? Like social media and government bureaucracy.
It's like it's saying, hey, this ancient wisdom still applies even in our crazy modern world.
Yeah, it's timeless in a way.
And one of the recurring themes I'm noticing is this emphasis on balance.
Balance. That's a good one.
We see it in managing energy and excitement, navigating relationships and finances, even in those remedies we briefly touched on.
So finding that equilibrium is key for route number 4, folks.
It makes sense. If you're naturally inclined to be a bit of a trailblazer, a little more impulsive, finding that balance becomes even more important.
Yeah, like walking a tightrope between ambition and caution, individuality and collaboration.
And that's where self-awareness comes in, right? Numerology can be a tool for understanding your strengths and potential pitfalls.
It's like having a personalized guidebook.
But ultimately, you have to apply that knowledge and make conscious choices.
You're the one in the driver's seat.
And speaking of drivers, that's where Rahu's influence comes back into play.
Oh, Rahu. Always keeps things interesting.
This shadow planet is all about shaking things up, pushing you out of your comfort zone.
Forcing you to confront the unknown.
So for those of you listening with route number 4, you might find that life throws you a few more curveballs than it does for others.
A few more unexpected twists and turns.
Maybe you've already noticed that pattern in your life.
Like just when you think you've got things figured out, bam, something unexpected happens.
And that can be both exhilarating and a little terrifying.
It's like riding a roller coaster.
You might scream, but deep down, you're loving the thrill of the ride.
That's a great analogy.
And it brings us back to the importance of having a good mentor.
Someone to help you navigate those twists and turns.
Mentorship is so crucial for route number 4 individuals. It's not just about having someone teach you the ropes.
It's about having someone who believes in you, encourages you, offers perspective when you get lost in the chaos.
And it doesn't have to be this formal, structured mentorship.
Right. It can be more organic than that.
It could be a trusted friend, a family member, a colleague you really respect.
Someone who's been there, done that, and can offer guidance without judgment.
Okay, so as we wrap up this part of our deep dive into route number 4, what do you think is the most surprising or thought-provoking takeaway for our listeners?
That's a good question. I think what really stands out to me is this paradoxical nature of route number 4.
The Jekyll and Hyde thing.
Yeah. It embodies both the potential for rapid success and a susceptibility to negative influences.
Like a double-edged sword.
Exactly. It's capable of great good and, well, maybe not great harm, but definitely some missteps along the way.
So the key takeaway is self-awareness.
Knowing your tendencies, both the good and the maybe not so good.
So you can harness the power of route number 4 effectively.
You got to be the driver of your own destiny.
Make conscious choices and know when to ask for directions.
And maybe take a pit stop every now and then to refuel.
Now, before we move on to the final part of our deep dive, I have a question for you listening.
Let's hear it.
As you've been hearing about route number 4, have you noticed any of these characteristics reflected in your own life or experiences?
That's something to ponder.
Have you always felt a little different? A little more driven to break the mold?
Maybe you've had some wild successes, but also a few bumps along the way.
It's fascinating to think about how these numerological insights might resonate with you on a personal level.
Take a moment to reflect on your journey so far. Your triumphs, your challenges, your relationships.
Do you see any patterns emerging?
We'll delve into that a bit more in the next part, but for now, just sit with that thought. Let it simmer.
So it seems like even if your birth date doesn't literally reduce down to 4, you might still kind of vibe with some of those route number 4 characteristics.
Oh, absolutely. Numerology isn't just about your birth date. It's a whole system of symbolism.
Yeah, you could look at the numerology of your name, your address, even important dates.
Exactly. That's like this secret code.
You can unlock all these hidden meanings and patterns.
And I think that's what makes numerology so fascinating for a lot of people, like this tool for self-discovery.
Yeah, it's not about predicting the future with absolute certainty or anything.
No, not at all. It's more about understanding yourself better.
And those energies that might be influencing your life.
It's like having a personalized guidebook, offering insights and suggestions.
But ultimately, you're the one making the choices.
You're in control.
And that's pretty empowering, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. It reminds us that we're not just passive bystanders in our own lives.
We have the power to shape our own destiny.
Exactly. So even if you're a bit skeptical about numerology, I'd still encourage you to approach it with an open mind.
You might be surprised by what you discover.
It's like trying a new cuisine.
Oh, I like that.
You might not love every dish, but you could find a new favorite flavor.
Expand your horizons, right?
Exactly.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into route number 4, I want to leave you with this final thought. Whether you believe in the mystical power of numbers or not, there's something undeniably fascinating about exploring these ancient systems of knowledge.
They offer a different perspective,
Hmm.
a different lens through which to view ourselves and the world.
They encourage us to ask questions, to seek patterns, to connect the dots in new ways.
And in a world that often feels chaotic and uncertain, that search for meaning and connection can be incredibly comforting.
It can be grounding.
So to everyone listening, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep an open mind.
You never know what hidden treasures you might discover.
And if you're feeling drawn to the world of numerology, there are so many resources out there.
Books, websites, even apps.
We've only scratched the surface today, but hopefully we've sparked your curiosity.
Inspired you to learn more.
Remember, the journey of self-discovery is an ongoing adventure.
And who knows, maybe numerology can be a valuable companion along the way. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and until next time, keep those numbers in mind. It's like we were saying before the break. Even if someone's birth date doesn't add up to 4, they might still kind of relate to some of those root number 4
Well,
vibes.
for sure. Like we were talking about earlier, numerology goes way beyond just your birth date.
It's like a whole language of symbolism.
Right. And it can be applied to all sorts of things in our lives.
So it's not just about those specific birth dates.
Not at all.
Even if you weren't born on one of those days, you might still find some of those root number 4 themes playing out in your own life.
It's like you can have a little bit of root number 4 energy,
Right.
even if it's not your main number.
Exactly. And that's what makes numerology so cool. It's not just about putting people in boxes based on their birth date
It's about understanding those broader energetic influences.
and using those insights to, navigate your life.
Exactly.
So even if you're a bit skeptical about all this number stuff,
Which is totally understandable.
I'd still encourage you to keep an open mind.
You might be surprised by what you discover.
It's like that saying, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear.
Oh, I like that one.
So if you're feeling drawn to numerology, maybe just dive in and see what resonates with you.
There are tons of resources out there.
Books, websites, you can even find numerology apps these days.
It's amazing how accessible this ancient knowledge has become.
And it's really up to you to decide what you take away from it.
That's the beauty of it. It's a tool for self-discovery.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into root number 4, I want to leave you with this final thought.
Mind listening.
Whether you believe in the power of numbers or not, there's something undeniably fascinating about exploring these ancient systems of knowledge.
I totally agree.
They offer a different perspective, a different way of looking at ourselves and the world around us.
And in a world that can often feel chaotic and uncertain, that search for meaning and connection can be incredibly valuable.
It can be like a guiding light.
So to everyone listening, keep exploring, keep questioning.
And most importantly, keep an open mind.
You never know what hidden treasures you might uncover along the way.
That's a great way to put it. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and until next time, keep those numbers in mind.